David, could you just do a bit of a sound check for me, please?
Of course I can, Chair. Can you hear me? Keep going. Maybe I'll...
It's debatable. More chairs than we need.
It's in on the ground as well.
Yeah, well, we are quorate. Lovely. Constitution.
I remember before it was the agreement, wasn't it?
Yeah,
So now it's
there was a discussion at a annual meeting when
the changes were made.
and how he said, well, because I'd used the word controversial, and he said, well, how do you define controversial?
Oh, right.
Over 65 as a...
Well, I'll just look, because we're just doing the final edit on the Constitution, so I'll find a bit of DM.
Marvellous.
So, yeah, so we're recommending 2 weeks, yeah.
This is an exception.
Yeah. Right down.
Well, but he's 50 easily. Sorry, 15.
Sunday. Sure. I'm going to go so I'm going to Sunday. Because I ain't taking shows in months because it's an awful show of support of the local system. It was when everything started coming out of the members for me. I'm like, again, Mr. Boshi, talking about it on the
Says it's on there. There's a lot of but it is live. Can't really check the sound.
Do you want to do this?
It's 6:30, so we're going to make a sound. Good evening, ladies ladies and gentlemen, we'll make a start. And can I first of all introduce myself? My name is David Whip and I chair the area committee. I'm a councillor for Earby and Coates Ward. If I go to my left,
Good evening, everybody. My name is David Walker, area coordinator for West Craven community.
Hello, I'm Laura Brown, Senior Planning Officer, Pendle Council.
I'm Chris Church, councillor for Barnoldswick Ward.
Hello, Susan Land, councillor for Earby and Coates Ward.
thank you very much.
John Spencer, representing Barnoldswick Town Council.
And entering the room.
Rashid again. I'm Hardy from Kelbrook, Salterforth Council.
Thank you very much.
John Reynolds, Commission Administrator at Pendle Council.
Thank you. Now we have apologies from Councillor Lola Whip, who is unwell, Councillor Christine Pollard, who isn't herself unwell, but is at hospital with one of her family. And entering the room at the last minute.
Councillor David Hartley, Earby and Coates Ward.
Thank you very much. I have one urgent item to be discussed, which we'll pick up later on in the agenda, and it's a question of a street light at Wormsgate that has been knocked down over the weekend. I'll explain more about that later on. I have one speaker, Graham Love.
Yep.
Thank you, Graham. And that's on the 28 dwellings at Park Avenue, Earby, or Park Avenue, Salterforth. Called off by people in Salterforth. It isn't actually Park Avenue either. It's Earby Road, and we keep making this point that it's Earby Road, Salterforth, but, you know, like nobody ever listens to us. I think in terms of just explanation that Pendle Borough councillors can speak and vote on issues, members of town and parish councils can move and second things, comment on stuff, but they can't vote. So if later in the meeting you see that people aren't voting, it's because they're not allowed to. Okay, item 1 is declarations of interest, and just check whether there are any prejudicial pecuniary interests or other registrable interests that people need to declare. Nope. Okay. We'll move on to item 2, which is public question time, to receive questions from members of the public on issues which do not appear on the agenda. No, thank you very much. Item 3, the minutes of the last meeting. Would somebody move those as a correct record, please? That's moved. Is it seconded? Thank you. Those in favour, please show. Thank you. Item 4, police matters and community safety issues. And it will be apparent we don't have a police officer in attendance. I don't think they sent any figures through, have they, Joanne? So we give them a bit of a score sheet. They did turn up at the last meeting. We had a good session with the new neighbourhood sergeant, Paul Meads. And we'll mark him as absent for tonight's meeting. If they have 3 absences in a row, they're disqualified, they lose the pension, and I hope Paul Meads is listening, so he rocks up at the next meeting that we have. Are there any community safety matters that people want to raise? Any issues affecting parts of West Craven? No? Okay. We'll move on to planning applications. We have 2. The first one is the erection of 28 number dwellings with new access from Earby Road, Salterforth, along with associated infrastructure and landscaping, land to the west of Whiteleys Close, Earby. And just to make sure that committee members are aware that we had a update report that was emailed round to us today, and committee members have got in front of them, and essentially it is saying from LCC Highways that there's no objection to the amended plans, subject to conditions, which I won't go into. However, the lead local flood authority objects to the amended plans due to inadequate surface water drainage strategy. The amended drainage proposal involves discharging to an adjacent development, which then is proposed to discharge to an adjacent watercourse. The applicant has failed to provide information that demonstrates that the adjacent development has been designed to accept additional flows and volume from elsewhere without resulting in a flood risk on site or elsewhere. In addition to this, based on the topographic evidence provided, this development may not naturally drain to the watercourse to the southeast, and therefore the applicant will be expected to demonstrate that the receiving watercourse has sufficient capacity and is a sufficient condition, assume it means, and is in a sufficient condition to accept additional surface water volume without resulting in a flood risk on site or elsewhere. So that's the two comments which are in the update report. Okay, having said that, Graham, you've got up to 5 minutes. If you want to come and sit on your seat, I can hear you better, and you may or may not be on camera in that position there.
Okay.
But your dulcet tones will reverberate throughout the tinterweb. Hopefully.
Right. Okay. Thank you, Chair. So, the last time I was here was the 1st of July, and you probably remember this application was deferred for, I think, 5 or 6 reasons in the end. One of the takeaways that came from that meeting was the land on the southern side of Earby Road and the fact that that was on the market. So the first thing to update you on is that Applethwaite, my client, now own that land. They bought the land, we've amended the application, we've extended the red edge to include the southern land, and that is controlling that land has enabled us to make the other changes that we requested as well. So I'm reporting very good news. So just going through the other issues, because we've now got that southern land, most importantly, there is no surface water now going into the combined sewer. It goes through the southern land into the ditch that you just mentioned. There is an LFA comment, but I'll come back to that. In fact, remind me to do that at the end if I run out of time. So we can drain to the south. We don't put any water into the sewer, so that will solve any flooding problems, any surcharging problems. The other advantage of having that southern land is that we can put a crossing in, and we can run a pedestrian footpath connection back into the village entirely off street, off carriageway on the southern land. So that means there's no pinch point where it's narrow, there's no highway trees to be felled. It's a win-win. It's a much better solution. Those are the two things that result from having the control and the ownership of the southern land. What else was there? Retention of TPO trees within the site. So we had another discussion with your horticulturalist, and those trees are diseased. They've got, I don't know, but they've got a dieback disease. So they are declining, and he could not justify retaining them. So there's no change in that respect. There are two TPO'd sycamores to come out, but as I say, they're not in good health. They're not good category trees. We can put the footpath linking to the public right-of-way to the west, and that's shown in the plans you put in. And the last question was whether we could divert or put the overhead power lines underground. We can't. I mean, it's not common to do that on such a small scale. the layout does take them into account, and to put them underground it's not financially viable. So those are the updates. Those amended plans are in for approval, and that's what you're considering tonight. Yorkshire Water have withdrawn their objection. Lancashire County Council Highways have no objection. The LLFA, it's an odd one. So when that landed, I did speak to Neil, and at sort of rapid pace we put in the information they wanted, and that was probably put in last week. I don't know if it's gone back to the LFA or not, but I don't know what you're going to suggest either, Laura, by way of a recommendation. But one way around that, without having to defer again, would be to make that requirement subject to a condition, or at least to make a resolution for approval subject to a completion of consultation with the LFA. I don't mind either.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Graham. I'm going to suggest that we do defer this in order to get certainty around the drainage strategy. I'm aware that the drainage from that hillside crosses Colne Road, and I am aware that there is a problem with a culvert, and this is me making an assumption, but I believe it to be the same watercourse that's taken from this development area. That culvert is causing flooding to properties on Colne Road, and certainly if more water is discharged into that watercourse, there is a risk of greater flooding to that property or those properties. And at the moment, the natural drainage from, and forgive me, I can't think the east, west, north, south, but the original application site, the natural drainage is through a culverted watercourse that runs to the other side of Warwick Drive and then discharges in the field, and it runs down White House Farm. So obviously this is moving the water, adding water to a watercourse that is proving difficult, and in fact is undergoing investigations just last week, and probably this week as well, because of the flooding that's been concerned. So I would like to bottom out the implications for the drainage strategy, the revised drainage strategy, before we came to a view on this. So that's going to be my recommendation. I'll bring you back in, Graham, but we can't have a... Yeah, go on.
Well, only to say that the runoff will be attenuated. So at that point of connection into the you know, if there's a culvert and if there's a concern about more water going into that and causing, you know, if there's a bottleneck or a culvert further down this new watercourse that we're going to connect to, we won't be putting more water in. We'll be putting the same water in that goes into it naturally, because our runoff will be attenuated.
Yes, thank you. But what you're doing is you're taking water from the opposite side of Earby Road, which, and I've been on site and I've seen that water coming off that field, and I've been sandbagging people's gardens at the back of Whiteley's Close. That culvert is on an entirely different line to the watercourse that the water is going to go into. So I think it needs bottoming out exactly what those implications are. Laura, I can see you. Anyway, so that's my recommendation to committee. We defer it, look at it at the next meeting when hopefully the League Local Flood Authority have determined what their views are following further information that's been provided. Laura?
Just to update, the information has been sent across to the Legal Flood Authority, so we are just waiting for their response. But in the meantime, the recommendation is still that it's delegated from consent to the officer.
Understood. Thank you. Graham, if you want to pop back unless there are any further questions.
I think all I would say is, you know, we can, I take the point that there might be additional overland flows coming in, but all of that can be intercepted and stored. You know, there will be capacity to attenuate all this.
A further note on the plans that there are exceedance routes, and the exceedance routes are there when the drainage doesn't take the water and it runs over land. So I'm proposing that we defer this in order to get the full details on the drainage strategy from the lead local flood authority and the like. Comments? Committee members? Come on, don't be shy. Susan?
It seems as though they've gone quite a long way to deal with the things that we've asked for, but I really think it's important that this water drainage is exactly as it should be, because by the time they're all built and causing problems, that's too late. We need it to be right first time.
Thank you. David?
Same as that, Susan. Completely. But you need it to be right. I mean, I've just come up this road tonight. We just had a cloudburst, and it's pouring down it. Absolutely. I'm not surprised that it's going to knock the gullies out again. And the drainage. So it was. The last thing we need is more water going into the estates and onto Cole Road at the bottom, which has always been a problem.
Yeah.
As we know.
Chris, did you want to come in?
Yes, I'll gladly second. If we are waiting for more info, it will be presumably a month.
I would expect so. I mean, these things do take longer sometimes, but I think we'll have information in a month.
Yeah. As Susan has said, they have gone a long way to tackle all the other issues. I think if we could ask if the information were ready, or if in a month, if possible.
Yes.
Just as a suggestion.
Sorry.
Okay. Yeah.
So
I hope David's not getting the call out. Are you on the rota?
I am, yeah, so that's why I was late, sorry.
Okay. Okay, it's moved and seconded. Laura, I think you wanted to come in again? No? You're happy?
Only to say that it really could be delegated, because if we're just waiting for the response back from the Legal Flood Authority, that could be sorted out.
Okay, I think, Laura, we want to ascertain what watercourse it's going into. Is it the watercourse that's currently causing problems? And if it is that watercourse, what's going to happen to that culvert in order for it to be able to take any additional flow that it might have thrown at it? And I'll just mention to Mr. Walker that the problem with that culvert appears to be under South Park. So the riparian owner of where the problem is Pendle Council. Okay, can we take a vote on that? Those in favour, please show. Thank you very much. Okay, Graham, so hopefully we'll get it back to the next meeting and we'll see how we get on at that point.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Moving on to the next one, we have the site of Hope Mill, and you'll notice by the dates on this that this stems from way back, and it's been an issue that this committee has tried to resolve for the last 7 years, in that the development at the former Hope Mill had certain requirements which were not met, including making roads up to adoptable standards and providing lighting within the development for the residents. Now, Laura can spell out, hopefully, just what the implications of this variation is. But in my simple terms, they wanted to regularise their planning approval by changing the conditions such as the roadways and the requirements for this, that and other are changed because they're saying the road wasn't made up to an adoptable standard and they can't actually get it there. And that's my layman's position. Laura?
Yeah, I think you've understood, Chair. This application is, I guess, what you would call a technical application to vary the conditions. So I think the main detail can be found on page 19 of the officer report, where it shows that the wording in italic text is to be changed. And you're right, Chair, it does relate to the timing of some of the conditions. So some of the wording on the application which had previously been approved was before any development commences on the plot, but it needs to be changed, and this application seeks to change that in relation specifically to the estate roads and to the base course level that they've laid the road to.
Okay, I think the substantive issue here is whether there is going to be lighting within the Brindley Mews. It seems to me that that is something that could be retrofitted. Yeah, they might have to dig some places up, but certainly if I go back 10 years, and it's that length of time since all this was going on, the residents were very concerned that they had a decent level of lighting rather than literally being left in the dark. So, Laura, can we frame this in such a way that they are required to provide the lighting?
Chair, I don't think that is something that we could look at on this application. They've applied to vary the wording specifically in relation to the trigger point at which the condition is worded. I don't think that we could add additional information about the lighting at this stage.
Okay, but the lighting was a requirement of the original consent. So do we pursue them for breach of condition?
So they're not attempting to change anything in relation to the lighting here.
But nevertheless, they haven't provided any lighting.
It's not something that we could deal with under this application, because they're seeking specifically to change the wording of it in other aspects. It doesn't relate to the lighting. So
Okay.
I don't think we would have a mechanism on this application to replace lighting. If that is the case of the original permissions, they're not seeking to remove that, as far as I can see, in terms of the lighting. So
Susan?
But the lighting's not there, so it must be highly probable that they weren't intending to put it there. Or surely they would have done it when they constructed everything, rather than dig it all up again to put the lighting in.
Yeah. I mean, this may be a device, but could we defer this, have discussions with the applicants and find out if the totality of the scheme is going to be delivered in accordance with the approved plans, or if they're just going to, you know, sort of get rid of obligations that they had. Susan?
Just a query. So, if these roads are not adopted, is there something in place as to who is actually going to be responsible for them? Because surely this will fall on the residents then.
It's messy. Yes. Laura?
It's usually the case of a management company which is put in place. So yeah, the responsibility would fall to whoever owns the management company. In some cases that is residents. In other cases they pay an external management company.
Okay. I think most of the residents are tenants of the social landlord, so there are some, I'm going to say, shared ownership, which would complicate matters, but in addition to the estate road itself, there is a road that was partially made up on Applegarth, but clearly not to an adoptable standard, which poses problems in the future because there is an application further up Applegarth or off Applegarth, which will be coming to committee in due course. I can't say too much about that one because I have an interest in that, so I'll pause at that point. My suggestion would be we seek discussions with the developers to see whether we can resolve the outstanding issues and bring it back to committee. Yeah? Does that make the general, apart from does that make the general approval?
Yes.
Yeah?
Yes.
Okay. Right. Thank you very much. So if we can take a vote on that, those in favour, thank you. Sorry, Laura, we're not doing too well tonight, but there you go. We can only look forward to more satisfying outcomes. Item 5B is appeals. There is a report that tells us about an appeal against refusal of for an outbuilding at John Street, and then there are two appeals that have been determined. One for the removal of a sycamore tree where the appeal was allowed, and I think that tree has now been removed. And then the second one is for two dwellings at the former service reservoir at High Lane, Salterforth, which has been dismissed. So the planning inspector has confirmed committee's refusal on that one. Can we note that? Yep, thank you. Item 6 is enforcement action, and we have some, well, they're all old chestnuts on this one. So we've got North Block and South Block, the former Wardle Story offices on School Lane. Laura, is there any update in terms of where we're at with this? We resolved to take legal action earlier in the year. The magistrates did find in favour of the council. They were fined and ordered to pay costs. We asked in September if there was any movement. Do we know if there is anything? Okay. Moving on, land at the junction with Greenfield Lane and Gisborne Road, Lane Ends Close, as it's now known. there are two items on here which they've been to court a couple of times now, and the fines are mounting each time they go. We're preparing to go to court yet again because there's been no movement, so they will be re-prosecuted. In the meantime, there is the problem of the end of Greenfield Lane, where there's United Utilities ownership stemming from a previous application to the County Council, and the whole area is a mess, driving people nuts, and it was very, very difficult because the lay-by, which was constructed to take passing vehicles close to the junction with Gisborne Road, is half fenced off. And there was a big problem when we had the sewer burst, because there were massive tankers going on there, and really, really difficult. So Neil is trying to arrange a meeting between United Utilities, Lancashire County Council, in the hope that we can try and resolve some of this, but the developers remain in the dock, literally and figuratively, for their failures. Do you know anything further? No. So that's item 3 and 4. Item 5, ID land off Cobb Lane. When we've been to check, it has been reasonably clean. Can we take this one off, do you think?
Yeah, the litter because of the clouds and so on, that's all.
Okay, so I think item 5 we can take off. And then the 6 and 7, we should have asked Applethwaite while they were here for the Salterforth/Earby application. But there is a planned application in the pipeline, and whether that's satisfactory, because Brogden Lane is still flooding, so it does need to get sorted out, does that one. With those comments, can we note that report? Yeah? Thank you. Item 7, Area Committee Budget. I've got nothing on this at the moment. Can we note the report? Yeah? Very good, thank you. Item 8, Traffic Liaison Meeting, and there are a couple of issues, well, 3 issues, but 2 of them are the same issue, so if we take them in order, in terms of the front page, there's reference there to the fact that the prohibition of driving at the gable end of St Victoria Road, that's been done and dealt with now, so we don't need to comment on that at all. The bottom one on the front page there, Station Road, Barnoldswick, and referring to the second to the back page, item 7, that's all the same issue. The traffic regulation order has been published, and essentially what they're doing is they're removing the single disabled space outside the Civic Hall, and they've declined this committee's request to provide 2 disabled spaces adjacent to the Civic Hall car park. And our rationale for asking for that was so that disabled people would be encouraged to park at a position that didn't cause bottlenecks when the buses were at the bus stop. However, the County Council has said that blue badge holders can park on yellow lines for 3 hours, and therefore it'll be fine. But what will happen is that they'll continue to park outside the Civic Hall and cause the bottleneck when the buses are there because other vehicles can't get through. So it strikes me as bizarre that they can't provide the 2 spaces adjacent to the car park which are away from where the buses pull up, so you don't get the constriction on the carriageway. So that's the first item, and I hope committee would resolve to that we should object to the traffic regulation order on the basis that there ought to be 2 disabled spaces adjacent to the car park. The second issue, which was drawn, excuse me, drawn to the County Council's attention when they did the informal consultation, is that there's a problem if vehicles park on the gable end of decisions, that buses cannot then get round the corner. Often you get a situation where the bus sort of like gets stuck, and then that causes not only Station Road to be blocked, but also further top of Skipton Road and the end of Church Street to be blocked. So we made the suggestion that if they put no loading or unloading at the gable end of decisions, that would reduce the risk of vehicles pulling up there and causing the blockage. So the second thing I suggest that we do is object on the basis that they haven't included the no loading and unloading on the gable end of decisions. Are we content? That's a good, reasonable course of action?
Yes.
Yeah? Could we vote and agree that? Thank you very much. That's carried. Over the page, we'll pick this up later in the meeting, but you'll see in that table there new no loading at any time, which is to be welcomed. However, the location is described as Albert Square. There is no such street in Barnsley as Albert Square. It belongs in EastEnders, and that's where it should stay. But we'll pick that on later on when we get to items for discussion. Are there any other issues that people want to flag up on this item on the agenda? If not, can we note the rest of it? Yep. Thank you. Litter and dog waste bins. This is your opportunity to start, Mr. Walton.
It's just a small opportunity.
It is.
Just a brief report on the erection and dismantling of bins over the last quarter.
Very good. Can we note that? Thank you very much. Item 10, Royal Mail Service, and this is where I get to rest my voice and hand over to Councillors Church and Hartley. And I trust, Chris, that you're going to refer to this new service that they're offering.
I am indeed.
There you go.
Thank you. Yes, just to start, more or less everything that the locals objected to is still continuing. There's still very poor service. People are saying that they are, on some occasions, actually missing a hospital appointment. Very many would have missed it if they didn't have the backup of text or whatever. People are waiting many days to get their mail. I understand that the head count of posties available in the area hasn't changed all that much, if at all. I know it does vary. So the position up to date, we now have this flyer has come round telling us that there is now a new service to be offered where the Royal Mail will deliver prescriptions. Now, on the one hand, I understand that this will come under the small parcel category, which is faring rather better than the ordinary postal service. On the other hand, we have to ask, is there going to be any additional staffing for this? Because if it's going to require extra work, it is only going to detract further from the ordinary postal service, which is bad enough already. And I think that we should ask them that.
Okay. Yeah. David, have you got anything to add?
Not to that, but just that on my other hat as a funeral director, I employ a company to deliver leaflets to every household in the BB 18 area within a 2-week period. It was all set up, and the company got back and said yes, it started, and then yes, it finished 2 weeks later, and 8,000 homes have been delivered to. I haven't got it. I haven't got a leaflet. Lots of my friends, so I rang round, and 3 out of 10 of the people that I rang had no leaflet, so I put a appeal on social media, on Facebook, and I got well over 300 replies back. And the downside is that they only delivered, according to the straw poll of 300, they only delivered 25% of the leaflets. And still people haven't, a month on, people still haven't got the leaflets. So I did speak to Laura, our postie, about it, and she did apologise because she'd been off after a dog attacked her. And she just said that, again, that they're understaffed. But yeah, so whereas they're saying they're missing deliverers, well, yeah, basically they're 75% missing deliverers, they're only delivering 25%. Of the thing, and all of this I have put in, and I put it in and the Royal Mail and everybody else, and emails, and we haven't received anything back from any of them. So, so yeah, it's disgusting. And people are on a regular basis, on a day, 2 or 3 times a day, asking if there are still problems, and they're still waiting for post. The advice that people were given was to go down to the post office and pick your own post up because it's sat in a box down there. So that's not what we're paying for.
Joanne, has there been any further response at all?
No, but then I did only send the detail of your complaint.
Right.
That's like a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, the response is
I understand from the posties that I've been talking to that there is, I think, a decision to recreate 4 rounds within the West Craven area, and that previously they'd made the rounds bigger, which meant that they were unmanageable to do the deliveries. And I think, I don't know whether they're going back to the previous pattern, but they are going to have 4 more rounds, and those should attract additional staff, so that there will be more posties. They won't be outfaced with the level of deliveries. However, I don't know what the time scale is, and I think a fundamental issue for Royal Mail is recruitment and retention, because I am told that people go for a job, but they don't necessarily last, and the new people are on worse terms and conditions than were previously in place, so the recruitment retention is difficult. Could I suggest that we reiterate our concerns about the service generally, and then picking up the point that Chris was making about the new service of prescription deliveries, querying how they can justify this when the basic postal service is in such a mess. Is that the thrust of
Yes.
what you were suggesting? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Has everybody had one of these, by the way?
I can't recollect having had one.
No. I'm still waiting for my lead to
One. So I don't know whether it's put out area by area or what, but I've more or less said what it says, but it's here to have a look if you want.
Okay, we're not, by the way, doing a free advert for Royal Mail, I think, rather than reverse.
Yeah.
Okay. Are we agreed on that course of action?
Yes.
Yeah, thank you very much. At this point, before we go on to items for discussion, I'll introduce the urgent item, which is a lamp post at Walmsgate. And you'll be aware we have a by-election on the 27th of November. The returning officer is concerned that all the polling stations have good lighting because the election's in the winter, and obviously after 4 o'clock in the afternoon it's getting dark. So I went round the polling stations. This is one of them, by the way, the other last week, and St Joseph's is fine, Raynham Centre's fine, Walmsgate, a bit problematic. And I did suggest a couple of things that could be done. On Saturday, somebody collided with a lamp post, and subsequently the county council cut it down. In fact, they cut it down this morning. And so the lighting that there was at Walmsgate is now deficient because the street lamp has disappeared. And I don't know whether the returning officer has already sort of organised additional lighting for that polling station, but as an area committee I think it's incumbent upon us to resolve things, to sort of move things along. And I think there's two things that can be done. First of all, there is a pole in the car park, which is Pendle Council's responsibility. It has 2 flood lamps on top of it, one of which isn't working and the other of which is a bit dim. I don't know whether it's the age or whatever, but my suggestion would be that both those flood lamps are replaced before it gets to the by-election. And then the second issue is there is a short length of path on Pendle Council land which goes from the pavement into the car park, where you have the access into the Walmsgate polling station, and that's quite uneven. Question, does it need doing anyway? But given that the street lamp that was immediately next to it is now out, I would suggest that could do with resurfacing, so that it's a level, well not level, but smooth way for people to get from the pavement into the car park and then into the polling station. So my suggestion is that we resolve to ask that these 2 issues are attended to within the next 3 weeks, and then we don't have a potential problem of people falling or tripping because of the poor lighting. We agreed on that? Yeah? Okay, thank you very much. Right, we're going to go on to items for discussion now. and we ended up with quite a long list of streets that people were saying, oh, this street needs doing and that street needs doing. And as a bit of background to this, excuse me, with my county councillor hat on, I was at the scrutiny committee that looked at, amongst other things, highway matters about a fortnight ago, and the county council are reviewing or renewing their highway asset management plan. And within that asset management plan, they allocate funding for different classes of road. So the ABC network, rural unclassified and urban unclassified. Now, since the last review, the county council has been spending £6 million a year on resurfacing residential roads. However, they are due to change that at a meeting on the 27th of November to only £3 million a year, and effectively it's a cut in residential road resurfacing of 50%. That decision is due to be taken on the basis that the average condition of residential roads has improved over the last 3-year period. But, and a big but, in West Craven we have seen very, very few residential roads getting improved. So we haven't had the improvement. Maybe other places have seen lots of streets being done, we haven't. But now they're going to halve the funding, which means that the prospect of us getting streets sorted out is literally being halved, and we weren't getting very much in the first place. So you can see where we're going with this one. So I've listed, well, they're not all the streets that need doing, but you know what different people have suggested we need to look at, and if we run through those quickly, it will, I think, illustrate the problems that we have and the need for the county council to take effective action to address these issues. So I'm going to look at colleagues and ask that you just sort of like go through them one by one. So who's going to kick off? Chris. First of all, Cavendish Street.
Cavendish Street.
No, sorry.
I do beg your pardon, yes.
Right.
Yes, I do beg your pardon. Yes, Cavendish Street, breaking a bad road in the section near Cedars Close Park Road.
Speak up.
Cavendish Street, breaking up badly on the section near Cedars Close Park Road.
Well,
Repeat.
Park Road's the second one. Yeah. So, see, Cavendish Street, it's technical term, knackered.
Yes.
Yeah. Next one, Park Road, John Spencer.
Park Road repeatedly patched, constantly breaking up.
Yeah, thank you very much. Wormsgate and Westgate, there's loads of old green statements breaking up. Chris, back to you. Moorgate Road.
Moorgate Road, very uneven surface on the approach to Folly Lane. An older gentleman fell recently, injuring himself.
Yeah. Harper Street, Susan.
Harper Street's a notorious section with a thin layer of asphalt which breaks up on top of sets, and it's crazed more than crazy pavings.
Thank you very much. I'll pick up Clifford Street, which a resident invited me to go and have a look at this afternoon. and this is a street, I mean, it's going to cost a lot of money to put right, but the gable end of the Groves has a slight retaining structure, which is too slight, and the whole road is sliding into the adjacent county council land. They have done some work, they've done some investigations, but I mean the unevenness is sort of like a foot difference. It's really well, life on the ocean wave doesn't do it justice really, but it probably needs a new retaining structure in order to hold it up. David?
Arthur Street in South.
So it's
It's other including.
Yeah, Arthur Street in South. It's worn out surface. It's falling to bits.
Do you want to pick the next one up as well?
The Almeida Way, Valley Drive on Oswick, worst in the local area. Ironically, not done when surface dressing carried out on surrounding roads. The best bits are the new culverts that have been reinstated.
Okay. Next one, Victoria Road / New Road, A56 junction in Earby. Nasty three-way junction, lots of people crossing on foot. It's so badly broken up and repeatedly bodged that there's no road markings surviving, and it makes it even more dangerous because of the traffic emerging from New Road, Victoria Road, and then going on to the A56. John, over to you.
Lower Western, Lower East Avenues, Barnoldswick, surfaces breaking up, coming out in a rash, with potholes when winter conditions set in.
Thank you very much. Wellhouse Road, Susan.
Wellhouse Road pavement opposite North Parade. There's a missing pavement at a former entrance to the mill, which presents an impassable obstacle for people in wheelchairs and mobility scooters. It fills with water during rain, and to make it worse, it often has cars parked in it, which forces pedestrians into the road. Pavement on Skipton Road opposite the junction of Crowness Road, where the curb is flush with the carriageway and water ponds appear on pavement and road.
Thank you. Ashgrove, Chris.
Thank you. Lower part of Ashgrove, this is. It's heavily trafficked, it is repeatedly patched, and there is significant pedestrian usage.
Thank you. Wellington Street and York Street, they're both very thinly surfaced over sets, and it's constantly breaking up. So you get this wide areas of sets showing through the tarmac, or the asphalt, as it might be, I think.
And then that's the same for George Street in Earby. That's by the
George Street
in Earby, that's the same. You've got all the sets showing through.
Yeah. We can add that into the list. George Street, Earby. Because George Street in Barley doesn't have a front street. It's got gardens. And the back street is set. I don't think it's adopted. It can't be, because it's not connected to the adopted highway network.
Yeah, it's the one that runs up against the side of the J Palace. Up that way.
Now, a favourite one of mine, well, should I say, not so favourite one of mine, the very uneven road surfaces on Station Road and Skipton Road near the junction with Fernley Avenue. This is where there's a lot of buses, and in the case of the Fernley Avenue junction, HGVs, and the soft bitmap surfaces are squashed by the buses, and inevitably on the approach to the bus stop, they're all using the same bit of road. Now, as mentioned earlier in the meeting, Station Road is due to get new traffic regulation order markings, so they're going to be painting the bus stand, the bus stops, and all the other lines there. But the road is completely goosed, so you know they've been putting all these lines down on rubbish bitmap, coming round the junction off Skipton Road onto, off Thurley Avenue to Skipton Road, if you see the double deckers there, they sort of sway from side to side, and I'm surprised that bus passengers aren't getting seasick on that one. Both areas are heavily used by pedestrians, either coming up and down Skipton Road, Thurley Avenue, or going to and from the bus stops. And the defects and the undulations in the surface are creating tripping hazards. The bus waiting area really needs to be hardened up so that the buses can pull up without deforming the surface, and you get a smooth place for them to park. We've got a particular problem at the moment in that come this next Sunday, that will be the route of the parade going to the War Memorial. So you've got veterans going on the station road and then perhaps putting the foot in a 4-inch deep pothole or tripping up.
2 years ago when that chap went down.
Yes.
Sorry.
That happened 2 years ago when that chap, that ex-marine went down, and he was in hospital for 5 days in intensive care.
Oh.
So that was part of the reason he went down. He fell over and then had some sort of episode.
Okay.
Following that, as we were just before we got to the War Memorial itself. So
Yeah.
but that hasn't been done since then.
Well, it's been patched repeatedly, but it keeps getting smushed, so you end up back at square one. Now, the County Council did ask back in August for suggested work in the vicinity of war memorials, and this was listed as part of a lengthy set of stuff that we sent in as needing doing, and as of yet it still hasn't been done. And I mean, I've put my county council hat on, have raised it on several occasions, but I just beggars belief that it isn't being sorted out. I mean, ideally we want a permanent solution to the problems that there are, but in the short term it actually, it needs to be sorted out. So in terms of those highway issues, could we resolve to ask our engineering services manager to pick all these up with LCC, have a report back as to what action they're going to take in each of these problem areas? I think we've got some other highway related stuff that we're going to pick up in the next few items, but if we have a resolution on that lot, frankly I'm dismayed that the residential roads are going to be, the funding is going to be cut by 50%. I think it's going to be very difficult for residents to get their head around that when we see such deplorable conditions. Are we agreed on that for a start?
Yes.
Yeah? Okay. The next one is a condition of Taylor Street steps. Chris, do you want to pick this one up, please?
Thank you, Chairman. The uneven steps on a long slope, this is a recurring problem. It has been LCC's responsibility since the definitive map modification order added the route to the new public network several years ago. So
Okay.
the problem is at least.
Yeah. So on that one again, can we refer this to LCC and ask them to take effective action? Yeah. Okay. Next one, condition of Gimble from Gisborne Road to Coniston Avenue. Chris, do you want to pick this one up?
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, this is the gable ends of Rosemount and Melville Avenues. The grass is overgrown on the edges of the surface path and the path needs attention.
Again, refer this to Lancashire County Council for them to carry out work?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. The next one, condition of back streets in Barnoldswick Town Centre. This is particularly looking at Back Albert Road and Back Raynor Road. And these two streets have lots of first floor flats on them, and the only way in and out for residents is on the back street. So effectively to them it's the front street. They're in a dreadful state. They've got trip hazards, crumbling surfaces, drainage issues. Both are well used by pedestrians generally because they're in the town centre. And frankly, I mean, these streets would chain a third world country. They have no place in Barnoldswick Town Centre. Susan?
Didn't we report these? I'm sure we reported these in the past and Joy from LCC.
Well, if at first you don't succeed, try again.
I mean, it's ridiculous.
I mean, the other thing that grieves me is that these are town centre streets, so you know we're spending a fortune renewing what should be Lancashire County Council's pavements, and then you go past the straight end and you just look at this sort of desolate stretch of crumbling bitmap that just destroys any semblance of pride that we might have in the town centre.
Just to add to that, to reinforce it, of course, being the town centre, apart from the obvious trip hazards, etc., this is the bit of town that out-of-town visitors see. We put a great deal of effort into attracting visitors not only for shopping but for events, and then they come and see this kind of landscape. There is the double, well, the double factor there, the trip hazard, and I have to say our public embarrassment if people see what our town looks like.
Yeah, okay. Again, met representations to Lancashire County Council.
Yeah.
Could I suggest, as well as the highway aspects, that we ask that this is considered from the economic development point of view, picking up what Chris was just saying then about the attractiveness of the town centre, the viability and helping businesses succeed and having a vibrant and vital town centre as a whole. Yeah?
Yes.
Good. Okay. John, do you want to pick this next one up?
There's an issue of grass cutting and use of new bus shelter on Skipton Road, Barnoldswick. This is the one following the extension of the 30 miles per hour limit. So again, we have to do a shelter that's accessible.
No. The other thing I've noticed is that all these bus stops with the raised curbs, they've got a lot of white lines drawn next to them now, and I thought it were kids larking about at first, but I noticed that they're all the same, they've all got these white lines on. So it looks like Lancashire County Council may be extending the textured paving, which is a bit of a shame because that one on Skipton Road was only done in May, the new bus stop. And the other aspect of that is that the buses aren't using it, so they're still using the old bus stop, which only has a pole, doesn't have a shelter. So we also need to be asking for the bus company or Lancashire County Council, whoever it may be, to actually get buses to stop at the bus shelter, and then people can wait in the dry rather than exposed to the elements.
Just a white elephant sat there.
Okay. Yeah. And three more. Condition of the exceedance channel adjacent to Robinson Fold from the culvert entrances and the former Westfield Mill Lodge. This channel, which runs behind some of the houses on Robinson Fold, was where water escaped from the Mill Lodge in flood conditions, the exceedance channel. And when we got the planning application for Robinson Fold, part of the planning approval involved getting a second culvert so as to relieve the flooding that often occurred with the single culvert. But even so, there will be occasions when those culverts are overloaded and the exceedance channel comes into play. And in addition to that, in really bad weather, the surface water comes from the streets uphill from this exceedance channel, and that flows into the channel as well. Now, the last time we had a problem there, it's a few years ago, but some of the residents in Robinson Fold ended up with water coming into their properties because the exceedance channel couldn't take the water. And some of the blockages are caused by people tipping garden waste in there. There's other debris in there as well. It's unclear who should be keeping this exceedance channel clear. The developers are nowhere to be seen, although there are some plots still to be built out on that site. And to my mind, this all needs to be sorted out before we get really bad weather where all this happens again. So I think with this one we need to be resolving to request the engineer service manager to investigate, report back and try and discover who should be responsible for clearing and keeping that exceedance channel clear. Anything further on that one? Nope. Can we agree that? Yeah?
Yes.
And then next item, late running on the Stagecoach 280 service, which runs, well, as far as we're concerned, it runs through Marwick to Calderbrook, then through Earby and on to Skipton and vice versa. And parents have complained that it's running late a lot of the time, causing children to be late for school on multiple occasions, which isn't doing them any good, both from Big Top off and in terms of their education. I think if we could resolve to draw the matter to Stagecoach's attention and to the County Council's attention and ask that we get a report back on the timeliness of the service, and hopefully that will help sort the problem out. Yeah?
Chair, can I just know,
John?
is there still a capacity issue on that service? Do we know? Or
Well,
resolved?
the capacity issue, the one that we were dealing about earlier in the year, was more on the M6 service through to Skipton.
Right.
And part of the problem with that was that roadworks in Nelson meant that they couldn't run double-decker buses because the diversion route took them under the railway street bridge. So they only had the single deckers, and they're obviously running through on the M6 route. I believe that they now have double deckers back in service, so touch wood, it's less of a problem, but no doubt if that isn't the case, somebody's going to let us know. Yeah? Thank you. And finally in this section is the naming of the unnamed back street at the back of Barnsley Town Square, which as we discussed earlier in the meeting, Lancashire County Council say that this street is called Albert Square. So we flagged it up previously. The County Council turned around and said, well, that's where it's known as on National Gazetteer of Street Names or whatever it's called. But we are the street naming authority. There was a policy, you two won't know about it, but there was a policy that went through the full council meeting that spelled out responsibilities. And we have never named Backett Square Albert Square. So I think that we could put it on as a substantive item for the next meeting, but that we alert the authorities to the fact that we do intend to name that back street and that it won't be called Albert Square. So we hope that any traffic regulation orders that the County Council make will be legal once the name is properly recorded and rectified.
I just suggest we call it Town Square, given that everybody knows it as the Town Square.
Well, my suggestion is back at Town Square, because the Town Square is the Town Square, so it's back at Town Square, and that's what we refer to it as.
Yeah.
We say back at Town Square. It's pretty simple, really. We're in Albert Square, it isn't EastEnders.
I think we should just go to Albert Square.
Oh, for goodness sake. Right, that's in Blackpool. Anyway, look, I'm not suggesting we name it at this point. I'm suggesting that we bring an agenda for naming, but we flag up the fact that we are going to make a decision on it. And if there's 10 different suggestions, we'll draw lots of something like that. Chris?
Just to add briefly, is there anywhere that the town square is officially called the town square?
Yeah, we call the town square the town square.
Well, yes, I know we do collectively.
Yeah, but it's not a street.
No, I know. But would it not simplify it, as John says, to call the whole thing, the square and that bit of road, town square?
It's the Backett Square. It's not the town square, it's an adjunct to it.
Right.
And it's a street.
Yes.
No, this is good. I often direct people to the Town Square, but people come in the shop and ask for something else, direct them to the Town Square. But there's no way they can see on a map, for instance, Town Square.
Marvellous. We'll have this discussion when we actually come to the name. Okay, I think we've picked up everything on that long list of bullet points. Yes.
I'm not skipping the bush shelter.
Yes.
There's a reference to the existing pole.
Yes.
Do you want to raise the removal of the pole?
Well, I think before we remove any poles, that we get somebody to accept that they should be using the new bus shelter and the new bus stop. And it's up to the county council, I think, to deal with poles. And David, it will be your job to make sure that the grass is cut up to the 30 mile an hour.
Yeah.
Because there was a lot of work done, but it's just full of weeds.
It's been weed treated.
Has it? All right. Good stuff. Lovely. Thank you very much. Heidi is a gog. Right. We're going to go on to item 12 then, empty properties, and we do have a report, and there is a list in the fourth part of the agenda of all the properties affected in West Craven. The substance of the report, for anybody that's watching this on YouTube, either live or in the future, is that there are almost 900 properties all across the borough that to be empty for more than 6 months, and of that there are 165 that are substantially furnished. There are also 230 properties that are empty and are described as exempt from council tax. This apparently is a vacancy rate which is lower than the Lancashire and England averages. In West Craven, or we'll discuss the addresses later on, because there was some that we think aren't included that should be. In West Craven there are 153 residential properties which have been empty for more than 6 months. 2% of the housing stock, which is lower than the national average. There are a further 64 which are exempt from council tax. And they can only be exempt from council tax if they are classed as derelict. So, I mean, 64 in West Craven, I think that's quite a worrying number. And there's a breakdown of the number of properties that have been empty between 6 months up to 2 years and over 2 years. And taking those categories together, in Barnoldswick that's 103, and in Earby and Coatswold 50. So we've got this report more or less for information, but I think that we ought to be making a representation to the executive to try and address the long-term empty properties, and in particular those which apparently are so derelict that council tax doesn't apply to them. So that would be my suggestion as a resolution, that we ask the executive for work to be done on these in terms of getting them reoccupied or done up and reoccupied. Susan?
I noticed that there's 30 Lincoln Road on here.
Sorry, we can't. Susan, we can't go into
Talk
details.
about that for now. Yes,
No.
sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, we can pick that up later on.
Yeah.
We're not allowed to
Yeah,
mention
that's fine.
particular addresses. Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh.
Is there anything further on the general topic? No? Okay. Do we agree to that resolution? Yep.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Item 13 does take us to the resolution excluding press and public. Can thank everybody that's attended either in person or virtually. I'm going to walk round now and switch the live stream off, and then we'll deal with the small number of items that we've got that we can't take in public. Can I thank everybody that's been watching, and